Hello, my dear folks. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. For quite some time, entering the summer, until the whole summer, until right now, the whole country, almost everywhere on Earth, on the global Earth, is talking about the problem of Ebola. Well, Ebola, only 5 letters. The word is very, very stressful. And somebody calls it pandemic. Somebody calls it devastating. Well, anyway, from all angles, this is a huge problem. How huge, how big, we never know. But is there any way to handle with it? Is there any way that human can overcome? But still, there is a question to talk about. To get to the answer, I have invited my good friend, Peter Fu, a doctor in biochemical research.
Molecular biology.
Molecular. I never, for several times, I didn't get to you.
That's okay. Yeah. Molecular biologist.
Yeah. That's right. even smaller.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Even smaller, right?
Yeah.
Molecular biochemical study, and he's very successful in that area. And as a matter of fact, he's established quite some theories during his time. So, to express his concern, he would like to shed some light from his expertise on the Ebola issue. I believe that's the information that we all need, especially my good friends, my dear audience in front of the TV screen, you know that. Okay, now, welcome, Peter, once again to the show. Well, I should say Dr. Fu.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. We're hometown friends anyway.
Okay, all right. So, as many of the media, I would say 90% or 90, if not 99% of the media call it pandemic, all right? And the rumor has it that is probably the most serious stuff that human race is facing. So what's your overall comment about the challenge?
Well, first, Ebola is a very, very strong virus and should be dealt with extremely carefully.
Okay.
We have been bombarded with all the news in the last 2 to 3 months.
Yes.
So I think everybody got enough basic information. What I like to talk today is from slightly different point of view, okay, how viruses work, how human bodies fight a virus.
I see. Okay.
How to effectively educate public, both in Africa, in the US, and other part of the world, to possibly minimize the spread of this disease. And also the last, we're going to talk about how scary it really is. I mean, it is really, to what extent, if we know more of the technicality, how they mutate, how people fight with their own immune system, how we avoid some of the potential infecting environment, for example, we're a little bit better off. So just a slightly different angle. But I think overall we're doing a great job in containing the Ebola. In fact, Ebola has been detected, I think, as early as 1976. Now, it may existed long before that.
I see. Almost 38 years.
Yeah. It is suspected that the African tribes, eating wild animals like a gorilla, chimpanzee, and that's one of the theories.
They eat everything.
Yeah. So that's why that we need to have education element to tell these tribes that it is not safe anymore to eat these wild animals.
I see.
But then again, you also have to look at the economical factor. They are short of food, they are short of jobs, they don't have money. How can the world help them to improve their education? how to help them to improve their economy, and in addition, how to help them to educate the Ebola as well as other virus issues. So this is a very complex issue. We're going to talk a little bit so that hopefully audiences will get some good ideas and as to how to deal with that, in the future.
Thank you for that. And thank you for pointing out there is still twilight. Right? Okay, now, I know it is quite necessary to educate those people, even those people back in the jungle, right? That takes a longer time span. What we are facing right now is the imminent danger. Is immediate right now in front of your eyes. You have to live with it, right? Now, so what is the most present at this very moment? What we need to do is the thing. More concerns, of more concerns rather than in the future. Right? Okay, now, to take an overall look or evaluation or assessment about the situation, I'm thinking back about the late 70s of early 80s of last century when AIDS just exploded, right? So I know both virus and technology evolve as time goes, like in a parallel, right? So how do you assess the challenge of Ebola versus nowadays technology, as versus the back then in the 80s when AIDS versus back then technology?
Okay, well, you know what? That's actually a very interesting point. In order to get to that point, let's analyze a little bit about viruses.
All right, okay, good.
Well, viruses are pretty much a single-stranded, either DNA or RNA, with a coat. So sometimes we call it coated viruses.
It's like a cell.
No. Cells has become a single cell organisms when they have the cell membranes. The viruses does not have their own single cell membranes, and the cells they might have other systems such like mitochondria and other things. But the single cells like a bacteria is way more complicated than the virus. The virus has to live within the cells. So a virus
in other words, virus antedate cells.
Well, you know what? Viruses has been existing millions of billions of years before human being are evolved on Earth.
I see.
So from that point of view, first when we talking about the word virus, we should not be just generalized scared. Let me tell you why and how. About 20 years ago, Dr. Stephen Morse predicted there are about probably say maybe 200,000 viruses existing. So they did research. They did research on one of the bats. And they find that about 55 to 58 different strains on that particular bats, just on one particular bats.
I see.
And they use PCR technology. It's called polymerase chain reaction. They have a certain markers, and they tested these markers. They find out that about 55, 58 different strains of viruses existing in one particular bat. Now, if we are, we consider that about a total of, say, close to 6,000 different species of vertebrates. So if each one has that kind of viruses, numbers-wise, so we're talking about 320,000 different viruses just with that limited markers.
Yeah.
That does not even include the invertebrate plants and others. So we're talking about at any moment on the Earth, we're talking about between 300,000 viruses to multiple millions of different viruses. Yeah. So this is why that the word virus itself is not necessarily extremely scary. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. How human being fight infectious viruses, how they adapt infectious viruses, and how virus wave start with a strong point and gradually degrade by themselves through mutation and through humans' immunology's defense systems.
I see. In other words, it is confirmed that it's the norm. It is a norm that about 200,000 to 300,000 viruses exist on Earth.
At least,
right?
at least, yeah.
And among them, not every single virus is a devastator.
Correct.
And only a few that are recognized and named, labeled as the bad ones, and then the bad ones, very bad ones, and the human has an upper hand so far over most of them. Am I right?
Well,
that's the overall picture, right?
Well, you know what? You're correct in certain, to certain extent.
Yeah.
I don't think, that human beings will forever to prevent virus and flus and things like that. But considering that the viruses are mutating, so if you contain a particular strength of Ebola, they may have different strengths of Ebola. There are more than 5 to 8 different kind of strains of Ebola viruses. So you could contain one or a few, but next year they might have different Ebola viruses that may be not as infectious.
Does that mean they evolve themselves?
Everything is evolving. Everything is evolving. You know what? Everything. And some of the species extinct. They cannot adapt to. And some of the species continue to evolve, including human being.
In other words, it's not a surprise that the human race is facing viruses, challenge viruses.
Since day one. Yeah, since day one.
Okay.
Yeah, since day one.
Back to my audience today it's a show that's been preparing for a long time. Finally, I find one open in his very busy schedule, Dr. Hu, in the what is it?
Molecular biology.
Molecular biology.
That's okay. Yeah.
Biochemical study, and to talk about Ebola. It's a big word. It's a big risk right now. So we're talking about to analyze the situation. And first, we confirm one thing to the point that it is the norm that about 200 to 300,000 different viruses are existing on the global Earth, but not every one of them is devastating. Only a few. Yet, only a few, humans are evolving their knowledge while they are evolving themselves. They immune themselves. So there's always a war going on ever since day one, right? Okay.
Well,
so let's take a short moment now. We find out, when we come back, we'll keep finding out more about the issue, and stay with us, please.